Okay, to bring this home, Tanya and I are just going to walk you through the process of doing surveys in the UAS. I'll start by talking about just the process, the overall general process for doing surveys, and then Tanya is going to talk to you about some special services that we also offer. All right, so as you've heard, the UAS provides a unique survey environment. Lots you can do. Ravi, I love the idea that you're inviting people to come and collaborate with you and use your sample and get started. And we have that with the COVID data where we were putting questions on the COVID, and now we have the free minutes that we're adding. And so it really is a terrific environment for doing surveys. And we are a full service survey research and data collection operation. We provide a simple competitive pricing structure, which I'm going to tell you about. And when you, which covers everything basically that you need to do to collect survey data. So when you do a survey with us, we become a part of your team in some sense, providing an extra set of eyes. Let's see, I already talked about that. Yeah, here, part of your team. I can barely see this down here, so I'm having a little trouble going back and forth. And working with you on testing and quality assurance to ensure that the data that you collect is exactly what you intended to collect. And I'll talk about that a little bit more a little bit later on. And of course, as you've heard, the UAS has a rich set of existing data for being able to target samples linking for analysis. And we have that secure enclave for working with the geocoded and other restricted access data. So what kind of data can you collect? You've heard a lot already from examples that people have done and things that we've talked about in terms of what's available for existing data. But of course, cross-sectional surveys, repeated surveys over time, you have a longitudinal design. We don't often collect data using modes other than web-based questionnaires, but it is possible. When we benchmarked, for example, we benchmarked a cognitive test that we adapted for online use, and we benchmarked that against the same study, doing a telephone survey to give us the ability to look at the gold standard and then create a score that worked in the UAS. We are, of course, also well suited to tests and experiments. We can include video graphics, voice, and targeted content based on data collected either prior to or while you're doing the survey. So all of the good things. And we can also, of course, as you've also heard, collect data using wearables, smartphone apps, and using other kinds of designs such as EMA to increase the cadence. We have asked people to collect photos of menus and records of their student grade, produce records of their students' grades, and a variety of other things that we can do. All right. So now just to talk a little bit about our services and pricing. We do have, as I mentioned, a very simple pricing structure. I'm going to show you in a moment. We also have a calculator online. You can go, I just wanted to show you here where to find that information. If you go to UAS data and go down to the end, it's under the contact tab on that menu. And there's information there that has, that lays out what we charge. All you need is the survey length in minutes and the number of completed surveys, and we charge $3 per complete per minute for the first 500 completes and $2.50 per complete per minute for the rest. There's also a handling fee. And because we are, you can calculate this for yourself, but we are also very happy for you to just contact us and talk to us about any project that you're interested in. We're happy to give you estimates for funded surveys if you're ready to, as Aria said, you have money, come do surveys. But also we do a lot of work with people who are putting together grant proposals, and so that we're happy to supply you with an estimate for that and a letter of support. And we also do have some lower cost options for adding maybe one or two questions. If you don't already see the data in our database, we do have a lot, but if there's something that could be helpful to you in writing your grant proposal, you can ask us about the potential for adding maybe one or two questions to an existing survey or something like that. We don't always have those options, but it's always worth asking. So we do have this online estimate calculator where you can experiment with scenarios for cost if you're trying to think about budget and what you can afford. And this does include everything. All you need to put in is the length. You have this this example that I put up here was a 5-minute survey, I think, of 1,000 people. And I think that came to an estimate of what, 15,750 for that. And so there are other things that can be added on, and that's what Tanya will talk to you about, but this covers all of the basic surveying. All right, and I'm just going to tell you what's included in the estimate very quickly. That includes all of the standard socio-demographic and household information that we collect when people join the panel and keep updated. They have to refresh it quarterly. That's, all of the demographics, age, gender, et cetera, also labor force status and income and employment type, number of people in the household, all the basic things. So when you're doing, if you do use the online calculator, remember that not to include demographics in your minutes. There's also free access to the UAS survey database and all the linking that can go on there. We will provide consulting on questionnaire and sample design as needed. The survey is programmed and tested in-house. We obtain a Spanish translation. We'll do an IRB submission, as I mentioned earlier, for the survey, because it's just a quick amendment. You'll have 24/7 access to survey data as it's being collected. Non-response screen and survey timings, platform data files, as Marco showed when he was showing what the survey screen looked like and what was available there. And as we mentioned, we will provide the non-response file and final population weights. And then when you publish, as I said earlier, we can put your link on our site, and you're welcome to also provide your analytic files and programs for us to host for you. This meets journal requirements. People do have to, give us a DUA to access the data, but that's really not a problem. All right, so I'm just going to quickly just talk about what, really what the process looks like of getting into the field. You would come to us with a survey, draft for programming. We discuss the sample that you're interested in and the timeline for getting it done. We would test the program draft until it was ready and you signed off. We submit to IRB, as I mentioned. It's usually really fast. We obtain the Spanish translation that gets programmed and tested. We have bilingual staff and a bilingual help desk, and you are welcome to be involved in that process as much or as little as you'd like. We do a quick soft launch to check the first data. You look at the data file, make sure that the data that's being collected is what you're interested in. And this process can take as little as a week, although we really prefer not to only take a week. But if we really need to rush something, we can. Usually 2 to 3 weeks is good timing, unless, of course, you have a lot of stakeholders that you need to work with, because honestly, that's the thing that slows things down more than anything, is needing to get stakeholder sign off on surveys. So then when the testing is complete, we send out a survey invitation. We monitor for non-response and send out weekly non-response reminders on the survey website, which we have access to and the survey team has access to, and nobody else. And you can go in and see the data that's being collected, download that at will, and also the progress that's being made. And the participation rate, you can see what's happening with that, because that's tracked on a daily basis. Approximately 70% response rates for short survey. We consider a short survey of 4 weeks, like our monthly surveys run about 70%. You can run longer survey field periods and increase the participation rates up to in the mid to high 70% range generally, and sometimes higher. We can also, because of the longer response or longer field periods creating a better response rate, sometimes that's desirable, but also we can, as I think Marco earlier mentioned, create a preliminary file for you that's weighted. You can start doing your analysis early. Since the 4 weeks, 70% are in, you might as well get started working on it, and then let the survey run and increase the response rate, and just run your final, the final data. Of course, at the end, final weighted data file and code book. So this is actually something that you've already seen because Marco clicked into it. This is just the site showing what it is that you can monitor as the data is being collected, the data files that can be downloaded. There's something that's on there in addition to the data files and everything is the response rate as it's been going on, and also the average length of time it takes. That's always interesting for budgeting, of course. And then just one more final place to look for information. If you're a prospective client, we have under the About, we have resources, and if you look at the prospective clients area, there's a variety of things that are useful. We have our UAS brochure. There's the UAS client roadmap, which sets out a lot of what I just said, but it's you're welcome to download that and take a look at it, along with some other interesting information about the UAS and doing surveys with the UAS. All right, so contact us, come do surveys. And Tanya's going to tell you about what else we have.